Welcome to Frankie Ogar Television, where storytelling meets cinematic excellence.
Welcome back to Consumer Voice Television. My name is Reward Enakeraplo. This week, we will be turning our attention to the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. What happens when a consumer lodges a complaint? How does the FCCPC stay ahead in terms of all things consumer protection and quality assurance? This week, Dorkan Rimdam had a conversation with the Director, Surveillance and Investigation, FCCPC, and this is how that conversation went.
I'm seated in the engine room of the FCCPC, and that is the Surveillance and Investigation Department. I'm here with the Director, Bola Dale Adeyinka. It's so nice to meet you, ma'am.
Thank you very much for having me.
Please tell me a little bit about your department. It sounds very serious, a little technical, and I like that you said it's the engine room. So please tell me more about this.
Yes, the Surveillance and Investigation Department, just like the name implies, handles all the investigation work of the Commission that leads to enforcement. My role as the Director of Investigations, Surveillance and Investigations is basically to manage the department, coordinate the mandate, ensure that all the activities that the department is responsible for under the FCCPA are implemented. And that basically has to do with resolving consumer complaints, complaints between businesses and consumers. Those disputes fall under the purview of the Surveillance and Investigation Department, which we call S&I Department. We also conduct investigations on all the infractions that the FCCPA, which is the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Act, codifies. So every infraction or violation of the FCCPA, this department is what you call the FBI. We investigate and, where appropriate, make remedial actions. Where appropriate, we also make compensatory orders, and where appropriate, we also prohibit, recommend sanctions, even prosecutorial or criminal sanctions, depending on the provisions of the law. So we also ensure that we evacuate and eliminate from the market hazardous, substandard products, so that consumers will not be harmed by such products in the marketplace. So this particularly is a proactive part of the mandate, so that we go on surveillance activities in the marketplaces and do random checks on products for quality, for safety issues, for nutritional labeling, all the standards that are supposed to be on products. We ensure that they are on those products and they are safe, NAFDAC number, and all the regulatory standards that are supposed to be on those products to ensure safety and consumer welfare. So we are the mobile arm of the Commission. So we're always on the field to make sure that the market is protected and consumers are well protected. Also, we do what we call monitoring sales promotions. And that's basically to eliminate misleading, unfair, and deceptive practices by way of advertisement of business products. That's very common, especially in this season that we are in now. Everybody wants to, reward customer loyalty through sales promotions. And sometimes they can be very deceptive, buy one, get one free, and all of those promos. So we ensure that they deliver what they promise to consumers by monitoring those sales promotions. And we also investigate anti-competitive conducts. Like you will note that the law now has both consumer protection and competition, to make sure that the marketplace is a level playing ground for everybody. And also to, like you will note, with competition, investment, innovation, and employment is guaranteed because it provides business, is an incentive. Competition is an incentive to businesses, and it attracts investment and business into the economy. So the mandate of the Commission, under my purview as the Director of Surveillance and Investigation, is to make sure that anti-competitive practices are removed or curtailed or disciplined in the market. So we investigate and ensure that we bring all the parties, we hear them, there's a hearings process, and also there is also the part that we listen to the competitors as well, what is going on in the marketplace. And then we bring everybody together to understand the nuances of the marketplaces and also to give appropriate remedies as provided by the FCCPA. So it's a whole lot that we do, including even ensuring compliance by manufacturers and importers with both local and international standards, particularly on safety of products. So we make sure that if you're importing, there is a traceability provision of those products that you register with us, or we also collaborate with other sector regulators and ensure that those products meet minimum local and international standards for them to be in the marketplace. All of it is to protect consumers and ensure that the competitiveness of our market is safeguarded.
And now on to challenges and priorities. What are the key challenges faced in monitoring and investigating consumer-related issues? And how does the department prioritize its activities to address these challenges effectively?
Staff capacity has been one of the biggest challenges that we have had since we came on board as a competition authority. And of course, it is expected because it's a new mandate that was added to an existing mandate. So everybody either had consumer protection background and experience. So we needed to start a lot of trainings, and also because you will recall that our law took some of the responsibility of existing agencies like SEC, particularly with regards to mergers and acquisitions. So we needed to really trump up our game by making sure that the requisite laws were in place for us to be able to handle those existing competition mandates, especially with regards to mergers and acquisitions. So we needed to build internal capacity in terms of staff. We needed to also resource and make sure that because the world was not waiting for us to say, oh, you're a new agency. The market was already telling us that you guys need to come on board, and we were waiting for the regulations. So we've done quite significantly well in putting the legal framework for the competition enforcement work that we do. And then the needed capacity, a lot of trainings we had to train. And then the next thing you talk about is after manpower is the means, the tools that are needed. You can imagine the surveillance just to conduct surveillance activity. We have the vehicular tools, we also have the communication tools, and then we also have a lot of IT support, sometimes in the desktop research work, just to gather initial intel before we actually step out on the field surveillance. Also requires a lot of forensic work that are done by the IT. So building capacity, not just on the field work, we also have to build capacity in the digital space as well to make sure that, investigations are seamless and we're able to stem as early as possible the infractions in the marketplace.
Now, how does the FCCPC collaborate with other agencies or entities to enhance surveillance efforts? And what notable impacts or successes have been achieved through these collaborations?
Yeah. One of the biggest statutory provisions that we have that has aided the surveillance and enforcement work that we do and investigation work that we do is the statutory collaboration required by the FCCPA. Incidentally, the FCCPA mandates us to enter into statutory MOUs with sector regulators. so that there can be seamless, operations. So we have been able to have to execute the MOU with NAFDAC. A whole lot are still on the pipeline, but specifically for us, our MOU with NAFDAC was a big win. And what does that mean? We're able to make sure that in the food and drug industry, our work is recognized by the sector regulator. And so whenever we have enforcement work in that space, we work as a team, and it has aided all our enforcement and investigation work in that space without anybody saying, the regulatory fight is curtailed by the provisions of the law that says that you guys must work together. And that also across like NEC now, another industry that we've been able to have our MOU with, meaning that in power and electricity sector, we're able to work together. We conduct joint town hall meetings, we do joint investigations, we go on consumer education, we do jointly, organize consumer education programs. And we also, particularly for me, is our task force, our field force, our field team. Whenever we have to delve into a sector, a regulated sector, the sector regulator comes on board. They always have members in the team. I recall our digital market investigation, the DML, digital money lenders investigation that we had. We had all the relevant stakeholders on board, and we formed a task force, and the operation was very successful because of collaboration. So we ensure that we work with all sector regulators. In aviation, the same thing, we're working with them. There are a whole lot of MOUs on the pipeline, just awaiting execution. Not to say that it is, before this, there's always been informal collaborations, but the FCCPA brought something more strategic by ensuring that it's mandatory as a statutory requirement for us to have MOUs with sector regulators. And that has enhanced our work tremendously.
Now, consumer empowerment is very important. In what ways does the FCCPC engage with consumers directly to empower them in understanding their rights and responsibilities, especially concerning surveillance and investigation matters?
We normally receive intel also from consumers. Consumers provide alerts and intel because you are the best protector by informing the agency of what's going on in the market. So we receive a lot of alert from consumers about what's happening in the marketplace. They provide significantly about 60% of market intelligence to us. They just tell us, oh, I bought this product, and there's no NAFDAC number, this milk is expired. Or even videos on social media, we get a lot of reviews and also intel from social media, trending videos on market abuses or, services that are substandard or that are injurious or harmful to consumers. So the consumers have several channels where on social media we are, regularly engage with the commission, and even on their own, alert us, including sites or production areas that they know that obviously this is not it. I mean, somebody can be producing wine in one room apartment and then all kinds of wine products are coming from there, or bakery that is just, or water, So they're all in their neighborhoods. So and we always encourage that, please, you are the best person to give us intelligence of what is happening in the marketplace within your neighborhoods. And that has been one of our strengths as well.
Welcome to Frankie Ogar Television, where storytelling meets cinematic excellence. Subscribe now and step up behind the scenes of Africa's next great stories. Let's make magic together.
How does the FCCPC utilize technology and innovation in surveillance and investigations to adapt evolving market landscapes and consumer behavior?
absolutely a very, very relevant tool in today's digital market. There's no way we can do much without involving technology, both as an investigative tool as well as an enforcement tool. So gathering evidence, one of the primary ways we use digital tools is to gather evidence. Even during our public administrative hearing processes, we make sure that all our hearings are recorded verbatim. We also use digital platforms to meet and also to interview. So there's the in-person interviews, there's a Zoom interview. We use all of that to make sure that whatever information that we require to conduct a thorough investigation and also assist in ensuring that we harvest as much information as we require. Also, when we go on our raids, especially our dawn raids, where we have to receive information and intelligence and evidence from phones, laptops, we have to go there with our IT and ensure that the forensic evidence is preserved, is harvested, stored and preserved, in a manner that does not compromise the integrity of the evidence. So it's a tool we use regularly, also by way of field work. There's so much that we've been able to harvest from phones. A lot of evidence that we are able to obtain from the normal smart or even on smartphones. So we use ICT a lot to make sure that, also in writing our reports, we use that as well, search words to be able to get, analyze bulky volumes of evidence. Dealing with businesses, they bring a lot of documents. You ask, well, one small thing, we get cartons of documents that is like, they know that you will not have the time, and technology helps us to sieve, we search with words, and we can able to get the information we require.
Can you elaborate on the FCPC's approach to enforcement and ensuring compliance, particularly in cases where consumer rights might be infringed upon?
This is the only body that is mandated to provide redress to consumer complaints. So it's not just for us to deal with the infraction, it's also to ensure that consumers are compensated, and we have 3 R's for the remedial action of the Commission. The first one is that if a consumer right has been infringed upon, he is entitled to a replacement. So if you buy a fridge and it's not working as it should, still under the warranty period, you are entitled to replacement. That's the fit for purpose rule. Whatever you buy must be fit for purpose. So if it is not, then you are entitled to a replacement. The first R is to repair. And in the repair, it must be bring the product back to the original state where you purchased it. And these are for new products anyway. So if it's not repairable by the manufacturer, then it has to be replaced. And if it's not replaceable, then the third R says that you must be refunded. So all our actions on consumer violations are premised on these 3. And of course, where the Commission deems fit, the compensation will also come for harm or injury associated with the conduct, which is that infraction. That's one of the areas that consumers derive protection, direct protection from the Commission, and we take that seriously. This department is the one saddled with the responsibility of redressing consumer complaints. The same also goes with enforcement, part of which is sealing. We seal up premises. Premises that are engaging in practices or trade or businesses that are injurious to consumers or will constitute an infringement to the rights of consumers, So those are enforcement, some of our enforcement tools in addition to summoning. The Commission has the power to summon anyone to appear before it and provide information or documents that will be useful in determining the remedy for an infringement of a consumer right. So with that, you see that we can summon you to appear if you have an issue with a consumer. This is the Commission that has the power to ensure that that consumer is well protected and happy.
Transparency and accountability is also an important aspect of all of this. How does the department ensure transparency and accountability in its surveillance and investigative activities, especially concerning sensitive consumer issues?
One of the primary fundamental rules for us here is the doctrine of fair hearing. So as a Commission committed to transparency and accountability, we don't just exercise power arbitrarily. That you complain to us does not mean that you are right or wrong. We still have to call and inform the business community or the business operator who is the respondent in this case. So what we normally do is to forward those complaints to them to investigate and give a feedback to the Commission on their own side of the story, because you can't just listen to the consumer and just say, oh yes, and then we slam the hammer because we have the powers to do so. No. We ensure that the respondents are informed about the complaints, and then we make sure that where parties, normally we allow them to go and resolve, because it's a commercial dispute. It's between the customer and the consumer and the business operator. Where they are unable to resolve the complaints, then we can step in as mediator. And obviously, transparency and accountability issues as well. Even as a mediator, we are neither here nor there. We're just to ascertain the wrong as under the FCCPA, and then proffer solution in a mediatory process, or if and when the order of the Commission needs to come in, the process would have abundantly satisfied the Commission that the injury there's evidence for the remedy. You understand? So it's not just the allegation now. With the investigation that we have done, we can find evidence to provide the relief and the remedy provided by the FCCPA. So what we basically do is both quasi-judicial, in our function to try and resolve the complaint without necessarily going to court. And where that fails, and there's abundance of evidence that the wrong and the remedy can be, the wrong can be remedied under the law, now we'll go ahead and issue our orders for the redress, the appropriate redress for the consumer.
Finally, what are the envisioned future directions or initiatives for the Surveillance and Investigations Department, considering the evolving nature of consumer markets and emerging challenges?
I'm sure that one of the directions we'll continue to strengthen is the automation of the complaint system. And a big one for us is also to bring up the responsibility of businesses to consumers by ensuring that they set up complaint redress mechanisms under as a unit of every business. So if you're supplying services or goods to consumers, you should also have a redress mechanism, because there is no perfect market anywhere in the world. There will always be infractions. There will always be grievances, between businesses and consumers. So there must also come, it's just logical that you should also provide a redress mechanism within your business architecture that caters speedily, efficiently, and effectively for consumers who have complaints about the products or the services that you are offering. That, for me, is the big game changer, because it will make businesses more responsible to consumers, and consumer welfare will become part of the business conversations, because the essence of business is for this consumer to be happy. Once the consumer is happy, you'll get the money. And once the money comes from the consumer to the businesses, the economy grows and the nation prospers. So it's an ecosystem where we are all beneficiaries when the consumer is happy. That's for the consumer protection aspect of it. And for the competition is also continue to provide, part of the agenda of the government is to reduce poverty through employment. And so businesses also making sure that the environment remains competitive for businesses to be attracted to, knowing fully well that they are also protected in the trade and economic environment of our nation. So for businesses also, we are here for them to protect them from anti-competitive practices that distorts the market, and lessens competition. So this agency is also the one that is saying to businesses, we're here for you. And we are not only investigating consumer complaints, we also investigate anti-competitive conducts that, lessens competition, because competition is what drives businesses ethically all over the world. With good competition frameworks, businesses will be attracted to the economy, knowing fully well that what they bring and what they are investing, they are going to be able to harvest it in a very competitive and fair market.
It's been a truly insightful session. Thank you so much for your time, ma'am.
It's my pleasure always.
Keep watching Consumer Voice Television.
Thank you very much, Dokon. It is good to know that we have a government agency that is willing and proactive in handling all things considered for consumer protection. Remember, your voice is your power. Let us know about your consumer experience, complaints, and recommendations on our social media handles. Until next week, my name is Reward Enakerapo, and this is Consumer Voice Television.
Subscribe now and step up behind the scenes of Africa's next great stories. Let's make magic together.